Is it on? Yeah, that's all right. Actually, I won't even read it. I can just yell.
I believe you. I believe you.
And this is videotape too?
On TV, YouTube. I'll send you the link after that.
Okay.
Welcome to the February 5th, 2025 School Committee meeting, 6:30 p.m. City Council Chamber. Please join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lay? Here. Ms. Martin? Here. Mayor Rourke?
Here.
Mr. Bahu? Mr. Conway? Mr. Rossi?
Here.
Ms. Doherty? 3 absent, 4 present.
Special order of business, 3.1, Spotlight of Excellence. It's CAGS program. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and school committee members, we are uniquely blessed in Lowell to have our very own Lowell Teacher Academy. I don't know if we're unique in that respect, but I believe we are. We have our own Teacher Academy where our staff can receive professional development. They can achieve master's degrees, credits beyond their undergraduate degrees and so on. And it is under Ms. Pina Maggio's guidance, forever growing and improving. And one of those improvements over the last few years has been the addition of a CAGS program that's been both very popular and very successful. So we wanted to have an opportunity tonight to allow Pina Maggio to speak to us and to share some recent successes. Ms. Maggio?
Thank you. That was half my presentation, so hopefully this will be rather quick. And I'm not known for brevity, and I will attempt every opportunity to make sure that I don't overstay my welcome. I'd like to introduce, before I begin, the Assistant Director of the Lowell Teacher Academy, Kate Burgess McIntosh. Okay, and I would like to say, I love this. I love the statement, there's a lot to love about Lowell. And I'd like to add, there's an awful lot to love about Lowell Public School District. In addition to what I believe, having taught in Lowell for 20 years as a 30-year teacher and worked at Central, I have the benefit of being part of Central office and also working in the building. I can tell you and assure you that there are no other teachers in the world or staff at Central who work harder than we do to provide the best education for our children. And in addition to that, as Liam just said, and I do want to say thank you to Liam, because Giving the Lowell Teacher Academy that responsibility is an honor. We work very hard for the professional development of our teachers. There are custodians, there are cafeteria workers, there are paraprofessionals, there are clerks here at central office who aspire perhaps to develop their career, and some who wish to become teachers. And I don't think you're talking about I don't think there's a district in the state, or perhaps even in the United States, that makes the effort as we do to provide that career ladder for our employees. And I want to also make a statement about, we are so fortunate to have, we're surrounded by the finest colleges in the country, and I'm going to say in the world, right? And I'm going to begin right there. The Lowell Public School System has a partnership with some of the finest colleges, Middlesex Community College, right? We have a partner, we've had one for many years. We are now working with them. If there's anyone in the system who wishes to begin a career, a college career, this is the place to start. We have an agreement with Middlesex where if someone is interested, you give them a call, they return your call, they have you navigate the financial part of it. They're absolutely wonderful, and we're so grateful to them. Then we have UMass Lowell, and we've had a long-standing relationship with them, and I'm really excited, really excited to share with you that we are in the process of creating a plan of study for our paraprofessionals called an apprenticeship program, wherein paraprofessionals will go to Middlesex Community College for their associates. Those credits were translated into a bachelor's program at UMass Lowell, and that's not the end of it, boys and girls. There's more. There's support to help you pass the MTAS. There's financial support for you to pay for these courses. It doesn't get any better than that. Where else are you going to have that opportunity? No one else but here in Lowell. So, and then finally, but not least, is Fitchburg State College. I believe we've been together for almost 20 years, although, Lisa, I'm not old enough to say that, and you're not either, so we're just going to bypass that. But we have two wonderful programs, a master's program and a CAGS program. I have to read the name because you keep changing the title, and I can't remember it, Educational Leadership and Management, and that's what we're here to celebrate. I want to introduce you to Dr. Lisa Moisen and to Phil Sason, both of Fitchburg, without whom none of these programs, we would not be standing here because we would not be as successful without them. And Lisa, I'd like to turn it over to you, please.
Thank you to the school committee members and to the mayor for having Fitchburg State University here this evening. As Pina said, my name is Lisa Moisen. I'm the Associate Dean for the School of Graduate Online and Continuing Education at Fitchburg State University. We've actually had a partnership with the Lowell Public Schools for 20 plus years. I think that we started in 2003. We have had hundreds of Lowell Public School teachers obtain a master's degrees over those years. You'd be hard-pressed to find a teacher that probably doesn't have some Fitchburg State University credits on their transcript, and we're really proud of that. In pre-COVID, Pina called us, as she does, and she wants to explore something new, and so we're always willing to do that with any of our public school partners. And it was about expanding into educational leadership and management. And COVID sort of waylaid us a little bit. We picked the threads back up again in 2001 and in 2022 rather. We start our first cohort. Our fourth cohort starts in this March. So by then we will have almost 100 people that have been in the have gone through the program. So Fitchburg State's here tonight. I'm here with Phil Siza, our EDLM grad chair, and we're just really proud to be partnering with the Lowell Public Schools. Fitchburg is very similar to Lowell, being a gateway city. We have a lot of similarities. And I'm excited to be standing in front of all these great teachers behind me who went through the program. They did the work, not me, not Phil, and not anybody else. We created the soil so it can happen, but they're the folks that did the work every day. So I just, Phil and I drove out tonight to make sure that we were here, and we really appreciate you allowing us to speak and to create this opportunity for a spotlight on excellence. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'd like at this time to have the graduates please stand. They have worked tirelessly. This was a very difficult program, and I want you to close your eyes and picture yourself seated somewhere up there in a few years, because that just might happen. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Very well done. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We're going to go up there.
I'd like to welcome Ms. Pratt here this evening. Good to see you. Thank you for coming by. We move on to section 4, minutes. I need a motion to approve the special and regular meeting minutes of the Lowell School Committee on December 11th, 2024 and January 15th, 2025. Place them on file by Mr. Bahu, seconded by Mr. Rossi. Roll call, Madam Clerk. No roll call. Nope. All in favor say aye. Opposed, motions pass. 5, permission to enter 5.1, February 5th, 2025. Need a motion to approve the permission to enter by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Mr. Lay. Roll call for that?
Yep.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway? Mr. Rossi? Ms. Doherty? 7 yeas. I'm sorry, 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Six memorials. We have 2 this evening. 6.1, Travis J. McCarthy, son of Paul McCarthy, retired teacher at Lowell High School, and Jackie Kelleher Roy, sister, budget funding analyst at central office. And 6.2, Avra Skrakis, retired paraprofessional, Sullivan School, mother of retired teacher Georgia Skrakis, Stock Lucas School. Madam Clerk, please dim the lights. May they rest in peace. Moving on, 7 motions, 7.1 by Mr. Lay, request to approve an early dismissal for Halloween on Friday, October 31st, 2025. Is there a second? Mr. Bahu, Mr. Lay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next Halloween happened to be on Friday, and I thought that for the safety of the kids and for the celebration of the Halloween, I thought that having a half day may make sense to some family, but you know, I also realized that we haven't made this schedule for the year 2025 school year yet. So I feel that we may be a little bit early to discuss about this schedule for Halloween in 2025. So I feel that this motion, I should take it up when we talk about the schedule for the next school year.
It's already been seconded, Mr. Lay.
So I like to wait on a vote on this motion until we discuss about these.
Okay, so Mr. Bahu would have to
Schedule.
agree to withdraw his second first.
Be happy to withdraw my second.
Okay, you withdraw the motion withdrawn. 7.2, Mr. Bahu, a motion to the...
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Can I please take 9.1 out of order?
Motion by Mr. Rossi to take 9.1 out of order. Seconded by Ms. Doherty. All in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passed. 9.1, rights of immigrant students. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There has been considerable concern voiced in our community about immigrant students, about the rights of undocumented students, as well as the rights of transgender and LGBT students in our community. We have sought in several ways to reassure students and families in the community that that we understand their rights and intend to protect their rights and interests. Some of the documents attached to this item on the agenda tonight are those that we have referred to. There are others since that time, including a memo from the attorneys for MASS yesterday. At any rate, we're following that advice, and it includes, I'd like to point out, it includes the Lowell Public Schools rights of undocumented students that the committee adopted in just 2017. And so we've also been referring to that document. I think the committee is aware that I have messaged out to our school community on this matter. We put it on the agenda because it's very timely and it's very important, and we want to give an opportunity for some public discussion as well as for the committee members to weigh in. I will point out, Mr. Mayor, we do have a registered speaker on this motion, on this item.
Thank you for the introduction, Mr. Superintendent. Mr. Mayor, my name is Kendrick Delord. I'm a senior at Lowell High School. I'm also a student ambassador. I'm also a member of the Student Site Council. So I've seen a lot of the school. I'll say that this is a great policy from the district. This is a great report. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for getting this on the agenda. One thing I do want to stress is that I want to ensure that these documents are translated. Like I mentioned all my positions because as a student ambassador and a site council member, I've seen our enrollment numbers explode, especially amongst Brazilian, Portuguese-speaking students. And it'd be a shame if students came to the Student Support Office where I interned my period 4 and we don't have documents available in their language. So I'm just hoping, this is a beautiful document, beautiful policy, so I'm just asking if we can get these documents translated to Brazilian, Spanish, and Khmer. And if we could get these not only shared to Lowell High School, but to all the schools, I think would be a great idea. That's my bit. So thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments from the committee? Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for coming to speak tonight. I think that's a great first point to ensure that the documents themselves are translated. I also think it would benefit from us kind of paring it down to the real facts. I think for students who may be coming to the Student Support Office, for families across the district, if we could have a one-page that just kind of very clearly states this gets a little wonky, for lack of a better word, but that just kind of states exactly what the policy says in real world terms. I'd also like to recommend, there are a number of documents that have already been produced on Know Your Rights that are kind of in that same format that you might want to take a look at. And they're available in translated copies in a pretty good range of different languages to reflect the community. But I think kind of both those topic areas would be great to have covered and be able to distribute in a easy to understand and very clear format. Thank you.
Mr. Rossi?
Yeah. No, I echo Ms. Martin's sentiments. I think with this heightened state of panic, I think that a lot of people are experiencing. I think everything needs to be broken down into easy to understand information. So thank you.
So before we turn the agenda, we'll just include that at the end of the reports from the superintendent. So back to 7.2. Mr. Bahu, a motion to have the superintendent provide an update on the timeline to begin and complete renovations of the St. Jean d'Arc Sarah School, purchased May 2024, to ensure that the school is ADA compliant, including other renovations needed to support the operation of the school for our students and staff in a timely fashion. Seconded by Mr. Rossi. Mr. Bahu.
So we purchased the St. Jean d'Arc School with our ESSER money back in May 2024. We had the city manager come here and give us, the excitement of having another building and knowing that we could maybe even stop occupying the building over in Chelmsford that we're paying close to $500,000 per year on. I visited this school, and the school is in very sound condition. The classrooms are clean, they're orderly.
It seems like we could get in there pretty quickly. However, I know it needs to be ADA compliant. I know that we more than likely have to put an elevator into the school. And being an ESSER investment that we spent $2.4 million on, it's really difficult to watch it sitting idle and realistically not have any work done to it, so that, you know, so that our students can begin to occupy it, and we can even loosen up the amount of population that we have within our school district. You know, this is something that I think we should have a conversation. I think, you know, Mr. Golden did come here, our city manager did come here and ask for us to make this purchase. And I think it would be a nice direction to have you, Mr. Superintendent, give us some type of information on the direction that this is happening in, so that we can begin to identify our investment and to make sure that it's working for the benefit of our school district.
I can add a little bit to it, Mr. Superintendent. This motion, very similar one, was filed last night at the City Council meeting by Councilor Belanger. All along, this was a 12 to 18-month process. We couldn't just buy the school and the students couldn't go into it. We do have to have an elevator. There's an open RFP out right now that we hope to close within the next 30 to 45 days. That includes the elevator and other renovations to make the school ADA compliant. So, you know, to say sitting idly, I think would be a little bit incorrect, because we have had engineers in there right away. The superintendent has been in there with the city manager along the way, seeing what needed to be changed with the school, both buildings going forward. But as of right now, last night and today, the open RFP is still there. It should be closing soon. Once it closes, we have the bids that are in. We'll make a decision, and then obviously the school committee and the city council will be apprised of all the costs and renovations with the school. And again, it was for the purchase date, I believe it could have been late April or early May. It's a 12 to 18 month period to get the school up and running for all the students to be in there.
Sure, and I understand the 12 to 18 month portion of it, but I hadn't heard the direction that we were going in, and nor did I hear about any RFP, nor did I.
Well, the school department paid for the school, and the city side is paying for the renovations.
Okay, so it's good to know that there is an RFP out there, but it just seemed like it took a long time before we even sort of put that out. But thank you for filling that in.
Yeah. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion is passed. 7.3, Ms. Doherty, request the superintendent provide an update and the mayor convene a joint city council and school committee facility subcommittee meeting to discuss the status of the work plan under the new American Schools grant, as well as the timelines of work required to utilize the St. Jean Dark School. Second by Mr. Bahu. Ms. Doherty.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate Mr. Bahu's earlier motion. Obviously, we were thinking on the same lines. I was also hoping, and I didn't include it in the motion, but I just became aware this morning that we still have the broken lifts at the Bartlett School. We've got 3 broken lifts, and it's been over a year. So that school currently has 19 students in wheelchairs. We are not ADA compliant, and we haven't been for a while. So that's prompting me to think if we could just sit down, the 2 facility subcommittees, and have a conversation about what are some of the things that are causing delay. As my colleague said, he wasn't aware an RFP was out. What was the deadline for submittals for the RFP, just to kind of keep us in the loop. And especially with the work around we got that wonderful new, let me see, what is it called? The New American Schools Grant, and where we stand with that, given changes in the administration at the federal level. I just think it would be timely for the 2 facility subcommittees to get together and have a conversation. An open and, you know, communication is always good, and collaboration, so that we are on the same page. I've also expressed in prior meetings concerns about some of the decisions that are made about priority work, and I know that's not on, it happens outside of our purview. In other words, there were schools that got new pavement, let's say, new parking lots, and it wasn't as pressing as other schools. So just to kind of be on that same page, and it's not meant as a criticism. I think that from my experience, I've seen we are working better together, the DPW and the school department facilities people, than I've seen in a while, but I really feel like there could be more communication, and we could perhaps convey that urgency that we need to get that school ready so that we can plan the programming and get the students over there. So, thank you. And also, because this is request is from the school committee, I believe that it would be up to the superintendent's office to initiate with the council, the city clerk, about the meeting time and all that. I think that's how we've typically done it.
So you're the chair of the facility subcommittee for the school committee, correct?
Yeah.
So Councilor Belanger is a counselor in charge of the facilities one. So if you want to contact him and put something together, I mean, there's going to be 6 people involved, so coordinating schedules and stuff. So if you want to take care of the school committee, maybe Councilor Belanger can take care of the city side and try to figure something out. Make sense?
Yeah, we've typically done it like on a Tuesday before the council meeting. I know that's convenient for the council, and I'm certainly willing to work with the schedule. So I guess I would ask the superintendent to have his administrative team reach out to the counselor, or however they want to do it. Is that okay?
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 7.4, Ms. Doherty requests the Lowell School Committee agree to join other elected officials in support of the enclosed letter petition to Governor Healy requesting more statewide investment in supports of our unhoused, rather than requiring unrealistic timelines and restrictions that do not provide solutions, but further traumatize these families and their children. Seconded by Ms. Martin. Ms. Doherty.
Thank you. I don't think it's a surprise to this committee that we have seen the number of homeless children just explode in our schools, and maybe the administration can give us an update tonight. I don't know if you have it at the top of your head. But I just went back to the last couple of meetings and what we're spending on transportation for children, unhoused children, and on our permission to enter tonight, it was $400,000. At our meeting in January, it was around $550,000, and I believe in December, it was almost $2 million. I don't recall exactly. This is a problem that is directly impacting our students and our families. And while I have great respect for Governor Healy, and I know she's got a lot on her plate, I think that we should, as a committee, respectfully sign on to this letter advocating that she look at some of these upcoming policies around homeless people and really invest, specifically the third bullet in the letter that started from a councilman in Salem. And at the time that I printed it, it said there were 48 communities that had signed on. It's probably growing, but asking that they really look at rehousing supports, that saying you have 30 days or 6 months if you're, in a very high tier need to get affordable housing is not realistic. And it's not helping the problem. So I ask my colleagues' support in signing on as a committee. The Lowell School Committee supports the state looking at investing more and providing housing for our families in need. That's my request. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion is passed. 7.5, Ms. Rossi. Request the superintendent to work with the proper department to support elementary, middle, and high school students receive appropriate educational guidance to ensure overall safety around the current deportation executive orders in order to help diminish any fears and reinforce our current policies. Seconded by Ms. Martin. Very similar to the report we got earlier tonight, right?
Yes, again, I think we just need to help to decrease anxieties overall in all languages and help people to understand what's happening, and families especially. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion is passed. 7.6, Mr. Rossi. Request the superintendent work with the proper departments to ensure that our history curriculum includes accurate, fact-based curriculum to ensure that all students of all cultures understand their cultures' unique contribution and grasp their importance in a broader narrative of their role in American history. Seconded by Mr. Lay. Mr. Rossi.
Yes, and this just goes back to the new executive orders as well, and to realize that no one has a perfect history, but we all live together essentially, and we need to figure out how to live together, and nobody is against anybody in today's society, but we want to move on essentially and be able to live together. And history was its history, it's flawed, but yet today is today, and we need to embrace that in what it is and cultivate that at the same time. So if you can do that, Mr. Superintendent, I'd greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
I'd like to see that done too, Mr. Superintendent.
I beg your pardon?
I'd like to see that done too, if you don't mind, yeah.
Do I understand you're volunteering for the task force, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, maybe go with Mr. Rossi for that one. All in favor say aye, opposed, motion passed. 7.7, Mr. Rossi. Request the superintendent to immediately begin work with proper departments to develop a task force to define any current K-12 curriculum, instruction, programs, or activities that could place Lowell Public Schools at risk for losing federal funding and put a proactive plan in place to assure we do not lose any of our federal funding. Seconded by Ms. Doherty. Mr. Rossi.
Yes, and going through the executive orders, I did see that we could be at risk of losing any type of funding. And I just want to make sure that all of our programs are worded appropriately so that we're not at risk for losing any type of funding. And to assure that we are able to give all of our students what they truly need at the same time. Thank you.
Ms. Biden.
Thank you very much. I'm not exactly sure what we're trying to guard against right now. I mean, I would not want us to be put in a position where we're changing our own policies and eliminating opportunities for students in anticipation of what may be coming from a Department of Education that may disappear tomorrow, to be quite honest. I mean, I think that there are going to be very real challenges to our ethics and the mission that we've set forth for our district, and I think we need to be prepared to stand against those. So I'm not sure what exactly we should be responding to right now in terms of preparing for something and being proactive. I don't think we're in a position to do that. I think that things are unfolding at this point, and we need to be prepared, certainly, to respond, but I think we need to be wary of just putting in place some kind of policy that says we're simply going to change whatever we do to accommodate whatever new edicts come down, without considering what's best for our students in our district. So I would be voting no, but I just wanted to explain why.
Yeah, I would agree with, just quickly from the chair, with Ms. Martin. You know, the way the motion is worded, I'm not sure any of us could vote yes on it. I think maybe a request to the superintendent and his team to just ask for a list of federal funding that we do get for programming might be more appropriate at this time.
And a point of clarification, I'm sorry, Mayor, it's that in the executive orders that I was reading was within 90 days. And I did not add that into that, but it said that any of this funding would be eliminated within 90 days. And so that was my biggest concern.
Okay. Anyone, Superintendent?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to support some of the things that Ms. Martin has said. There's various advice coming from various areas. The most recent one I thought was quite sensible is from the attorneys for the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents, and this arrived to me just today. They make the point that although the information is coming fast and furious, it's not always necessary to respond with immediate action. It is reasonable to wait until several days after the new order or interpretation is issued to see if it is altered or blocked, and we've seen many of them be blocked or be court blocked. They also say, and the recommendation is that there's a considerable amount of discussion about federal rights versus state rights. If the federal government, for instance, chose to eliminate protections for certain classes of people, the state is within its right to give additional rights for some people. And you know, you can always give more rights than the federal government. I have to be careful here because I'm not a lawyer. At any rate, This attorney for Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents claims that I have not seen any definitive authority indicate that Massachusetts non-discrimination laws have been suspended by federal law, including executive orders. It's also unclear whether and to what extent federal funding may be withheld. The point being, it's all very unclear. And even when orders are issued, they're sometimes withdrawn or blocked by a court. I agree with Ms. Martin, and I think we could spend a lot of time and a lot of energy in our work responding when it might be wiser to observe for a while first.
So we'll take a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Lay?
No.
Ms. Martin?
No.
Mayor Rourke?
No.
Mr. Bahu?
No.
Mr. Conway? Mr. Rossi? Yes. Ms. Doherty? 1 yea, 5 nays.
7.8 by Ms. Del Rossi, request the superintendent work with the adequate departments to report on the 21st century after-school program and the impacts on student academic progress. Second by Mr. Bahu. Mr. Rossi.
Just to basically link what the 21st century program is, the impacts of the students enrolled in the progress they're making in school, and how that homework help is helping them overall. I think it would be interesting to see that correlation and to help overall. Thank you.
Those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 8, subcommittees, 8.1, the approval of the minutes of the Policy and Governance Subcommittee meeting, January 16th, 2025. Ms. Doherty.
So the Policy and Governance Subcommittee did meet on Thursday, January 16th. Present were myself, Mr. Conway, and Mr. Rossi, as well as Ms. Phillips, and the representative from MASC, Alicia Mallon. We went over a series of policies in Section A, and there's a list on your minutes of all the policies that we did discuss that came under Section A. And you'll see what the recommendations were and how this subcommittee voted on each of those items. And we also, I think there's a vote later on about some policy changes that we can take when we get to them on the agenda. We also set our next meeting, so as the committee knows, we are diligently going through the policies book. And our next meeting is set for February 25. You're all welcome to join if you'd like. We are going to be joining, that night will also be a curriculum subcommittee meeting. So you could go for a twofer if you wanted to be out. If you weren't doing city council work, it's a Tuesday night.
Bummed out.
But I would put that forward as a motion of progress, report of progress.
By Ms. Doherty, second by Ms. Martin. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 8.2, approval of the minutes of the Special Education Subcommittee meeting, January 16th, 2025. Mr. Rossi.
At the special education meeting, we talked about, first of all, at members present was myself, Ms. Doherty, and Ms. Martin, as well as Ms. Brown-LeGrand and Ms. Lucius, the Director of Special Education. It was in response to Ms. Doherty's motion regarding special education improvement plan. Ms. Brown-LeGrand explained that one of the topics in the improvement plan involves programming at the Bartlett School. We then got to talk about why all of the life skills programs were placed at the Bartlett School where the elevator is not working. I asked about what schools currently have LEAP programs. Ms. Grand mentioned that only the Daly and the Bartlett have the LEAP programs. Ms. Doherty stated that the LEAP program isn't just mobility issues, and that students with mobility issues can attend other schools. Ms. LeGrand explained that they're utilizing an agency but must remain mindful of the cost. Ms. Doherty emphasized the importance of considering the upcoming budget process when looking at the possible changes that need to be made. I threw in a curveball and also asked about language-based classes. There's a lot that I just believe as a special educator and what I see through a special education lens, that I believe that we could build within all of our schools within like a language-based program and a LEAP program in every elementary school and every middle school. But that would take lots of time. Then I was told that my scope and sequence was way too big, and I get that. But in a perfect world, I would love to see that. At the end, Ms. Doherty made a motion to adjourn, and we met, seconded by Ms. Martin. So it's a report of progress of where we stand with looking at LEAP programs and schools with elevators.
Ms. Doherty.
Thank you. If I could just add to that, I think one of the key points, because the subcommittee was meeting about this idea of what's the plan for improving special education. And part of that is looking at how we have all these students at a school that's not really conducive to mobility issues. But that, to me, is just one piece of the picture. So when we discussed this idea of how are we looking at making improvements to special ed, the language-based learning is also part of that, right? So we had specifically asked that a task force be convened that includes frontline members who work in special education, teachers, different roles, and that this group begin to put together a plan and come back to us with that plan. So I had asked whether we could receive a list of the members who are going to serve on this task force, as well as details about the facilities that are being looked at that's specific to the Bartlett School piece, the mobility issue students. So it's my hope that we're going to get that report soon, because over all of this is the budget that's coming before us. And whatever plans and at the time of the meeting, Ms. Brown-LeGrand explained that they were actually visiting all the schools with facilities to look at that piece, the Bartlett School piece. But I'd love to get something on the calendar that we can know. I mean, I defer to the chair of special education, but if we could look at maybe March, that we'll get this information, that we'll get a report that says, this is what we're thinking of, because frankly, I was in this seat when we made the move. I mean, it said in the minutes that it was traditionally at the Bartlett, but all those students in wheelchairs was not traditionally at the Bartlett. That has happened in the prior administration without this committee's awareness. So I really feel like we need to be at that table. The teachers, the staff who work with these students firsthand need to be at that table. And certainly we can look at other aspects, not just the mobility issue, because we talked also about the staffing concerns. We know we've had problems with getting the staff we need. We know we have caseload problems with some of our special education staff. That's impacting not only what's happening with our students, but our ability to attract people. If Lowell has a reputation, oh, you go there and you're going to have, twice the caseload of somebody who works in Medford, so we've got to be thinking about this from a multi-pronged approach. But the heart of it for me is getting the people at the table who have the knowledge and the perspective and having those conversations and being able to bring it back to us in a timely way. So thank you for that. And maybe we could poll with the administrator for a meeting that works, in March.
Could I
We
put
do-
a motion in to have a subcommittee meeting in March?
I mean, does that give you enough time?
Mr. Grant, go ahead.
Yeah, I can also give a brief update if that's something.
Oh, okay, whatever you guys want. Thank you.
We did actually convene a team. The team consists of the administrator at the building, a long-term teacher at the building. We'd like a BCBA at the moment. One that's familiar with that is currently on leave. Administrators also down through the special ed in my office. Looking at kind of the needs of the individual students, how it fits potentially the facilities. We've looked at most, not all of the potential buildings at this point. The next step is really trying to get the people that know the kiddos to come out to the potential spaces, to narrow it down further. So we're kind of in that place right now. So we talked, everything from locations that need air conditioning to location of the bathroom. The kinds of materials and equipment that the students need will dictate the space that's available and space dimensions we would require. So trying to explore everything at this point. Yep.
Thank you so much for that update. And I guess I just want to understand then, are we looking at this group that you have convened is specifically just looking at the physical space limitations for this particular cohort of students? Or are you looking also bigger picture about other special ed improvements that could be made? Just trying to fully understand what you.
So I think the immediate need when I kind of joined was definitely this strand. We have some facilities issues that I think are incredibly problematic for our students to access the life of the building. Stepping back from that, our director's there just under probably 2 months. So I think that there are a number of things, but the special ed programming is the biggest piece of it. Looking at our numbers, looking at how to retain staff, how to train staff, how to incentivize them to stay, right? That drives the outcomes for kids if we have highly qualified, committed people that want to be with our kids. How to make the connection between special ed and regular ed and have them be able to collaborate on students. So it's a programming in terms of space and numbers, but it's also other things, collaborating with other departments. So it's really kind of a multi-year thing. I do know the thought is that that's going to be a piece potentially of our strategic plan. It has to be, which I think is going to be multi-year. I would say we're in the place, just having myself new, the director new, we're in kind of a little bit of a data collection phase, trying to get kind of who we've got, who's certified, who's been where for how long, what are the programs, what are the needs of the immediate programs that we need to fix, and then stepping back a little bit. Sure.
Mr. Superintendent?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To some of the points that Ms. Doherty made, we are determined to work collaboratively with staff in making decisions as much as possible, and especially where that's appropriate. I will point out to Ms. Doherty, not all decisions would be suitable for a task force, right? So the primary decision around the programs at the Bartlett School and looking for additional space is finding additional suitable space. We don't need the task force to help us with that, and a task force might actually distract us and delay that process. We can find space if there is space, and we can judge if it's suitable for that need. If we involve staff in that, sometimes we get into a predicament where staff might be in different schools, might be vying against each other. It's a question of the suitability of space and finding that space. My point is simply that we should and will involve as many people as possible in being collaborative about making good decisions, but it's not always a good idea for every decision.
I just want to respond to that. I agree with you completely. My thinking about this is to hear from the frontline people. Not that you're going to say, okay, you've got a task force of 10 people, how many want to go here? No, the final decision is going to be up to your administrative team. But to do it without having a formal built-in process, and I know we talked about this at the curriculum subcommittee meeting as well, that when we're looking at curriculum, we need to be talking with the teachers. We need to be, get their input, not only just because it's the purpose of the education, getting some different people's perspective, you also get their buy-in when they know that you're listening and you make better decisions. So I'm not expecting that you're going to be making decisions by a task force. I want there to be that weigh-in. That's really, so I think we're on the same page with that completely. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Lay, take a 5-minute recess, second by Ms. Martin. All those in favor say aye. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Welcome back. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Lay? Ms.
Oh,
Martin?
here.
Mayor Rourke?
Here.
Mr. Bahu? Mr. Conway? Mr. Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Here.
4 present, 3 absent.
So we just need a motion to accept the report of progress on 8.2, Special Education Subcommittee by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Mr. Lay. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Returning to our report to the superintendent, 9.2, FY26 budget process and recent federal funding updates. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. School committee members, you have in your packet a memo from Dr. Pinto about the budget and a mention as well about the federal grant funding. We are here, and Dr. Pinto is here to take questions if you have them.
Moving on, 9.3, FY25 Q2 district spending. Mr. Superintendent.
Similarly, school committee members, Dr. Pinto has a memo in here about the quarterly budget up to and including the second quarter, which was the end of last calendar year. That is in your packet. I and Dr. Pinto, we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much. Just a quick question to make sure I'm reading this right. So as I'm looking at the bottom section of this, which is focused on the salary expenses, as I read across the columns, so expended and encumbered, that's basically anticipating all salaries for the full year. So it's both what has been expended and what we're expecting to expend combined.
Yes, Mr.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Doherty.
So for the full year, not just another quarter, that expended, the expended encumbered line?
That's correct, Ms. Doherty.
Because I guess my question was, how are we tracking in terms of this percentage spent and the time and costs we have remaining? Like when you look at the balance in that final column going across, is that after everything we expect to be spending, that's going to be the balance, or those are additional costs, recurring costs that are going to continue beyond that expended and encumbered column?
So we are anticipating additional expenses. These are the salaried expenses that we have record of and that we're anticipating going forward. But there are a number of other items that will come up before it's all.
Actually, I was referring to the non-salary expenses.
Okay, so the non-salary expenses, this is just to date, December 31st. And so there's room with the balances to spend through the year.
So I guess in the past, we used to have a percentage column where you could say, oh, we're halfway through the year and we've spent 50% of the money that we had put in that line item. Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to make sure that we have enough to get us through the rest of the year. And it's not clear to me that some of the numbers seem like they're kind of low and other, so.
Sure, so we can certainly add a percentage column if you like. I found that percentage column has been misinterpreted very recently with people not understanding the dollars spent and amount encumbered. So just wanted to be clear that this, on the top half of the document, the non-salary expenses, this is just the amount remaining, the 10.3 million, but I can certainly add a percentage column if that would serve to clarify it for school committee.
For instance, with regular ed transportation, right? The balance is currently 1,978,634. Is that enough to get us till the end of school?
So that's what we're anticipating at this time. So, well, this is as of the report, as of December 31st. And so this, of course, snapshot has changed over the last couple of months. And we do have contracts pending both for regular education and special education that are resting with law at this time. But at this time, we're anticipating that this will be enough to carry us through the end of the year.
And every month when we have the permission to enter and we're adding 900,000 for transportation for our homeless students, or, where is that coming from? What budget line is that coming from?
So I've noted that those variable costs do place significant pressure on the budget, and so we can only make our best guess with regard to homeless transportation. We don't know which students are going to be added between now and the close of the year, for example, if I were to use that as an example. So we're continuing to monitor that very closely. So while I've provided you with a report that carries through to December 31st, we're continuing to monitor the budget in cooperation with the city auditor. City auditor was at our office today and will be meeting with us on a twice-monthly basis. We're working to address all of the negatives and keep things.
So what's the answer to the question about the money we,
So, Ms. Doherty, I think the answer to your question, a couple of things in answer to questions that you've asked. As a lay person and not the financial expert, I think I can give it to you, right? So the transportation costs are either regular education transportation or they're special education. And so for new contracts that are added, let's say new students to the district, new migrant students or whatever, if the child is a special education student, is maybe in special education transportation. If not, it's in regular ed transportation. The second point, the big point for me, is that in our budget projections, we are very well managed, and we are very confident of being able to meet our bills right throughout the remainder of the year, as well as spending out our funds when we get towards the end of the year.
okay. So when we vote on additional contracts for homeless transportation, depending on if the student is special ed or regular ed, that's the bucket it comes from.
Yes.
Special ed transportation, regular ed transportation. And you're watching it because obviously you can't predict.
That's right.
How many, next month are we going to have more students?
That's right.
You
That's
know?
correct. If a budget item, if a budget line is meets unanticipated costs and it's spent down, we will seek a transfer from the school committee members from a line that has some funds in it. I am very, very confident in the budgeting that we've done this year. Confident that it's been very well managed, as well as the fact that we'll be able to meet the needs that that are coming this spring.
Okay, thank you.
9.4, response to a motion by Mr. Conway, Ms. Martin, and Ms. Doherty, November 20th, 2024, regarding new Lowell school buildings at University Ave. Ms. Martin? Yeah. Okay, yep, Ms. Doherty.
I actually was hoping that we could make I thought the idea was it's the George Zapasara School, that's what we voted, right? But we want to honor that we had named the Janice 80 program. So I just think that the size of the words, you didn't have any concerns about?
I'm sorry, that I was looking at something else. I apologize.
All right, so.
Whipping around.
All right, let me just say my point then, because.
Okay.
I'm thinking that it should be the Dr. Janice 80 Day Center, or day program, and it shouldn't be bigger than the George Zapasara School, because the whole school, and I don't know what else is going to be at the Zapasara School, if it's going to just be the Dr. Janice 80 Day Center. I thought there were other options that we were looking at.
Thank you.
So
Ms. Doherty.
that's how I was thinking about it. So that's my feedback, but that's just me.
We weren't entirely clear. We got some different advice around. We heard at one point very clearly that the committee wanted the school to be the George Zapasara School. If we go back in the records, which I don't know that is necessary, we also heard the committee say, or at least some members say, that they did not want to drop the Janice 80 School. So the best way forward, I think, would to provide you with some examples and for you to make the very kinds of comments that you're making tonight. If the committee tells us, call it the Dr. Janice 80 Center, that would be great. And make sure that this name is larger than this other name. Those kinds of advice will be very helpful.
Yeah, I think that's exactly, I mean, what I would be envisioning using this as a guide would be the George Zapasara School. Underneath, you're going to have the Dr. Janice 80 Day program, the secondary program that may be there, there's going to be at least 2 or 3 different programs that should all be housed within this one school. So I think that's kind of how to phrase it. I do
Thank
like
you.
program better than center, just.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
okay
you.
with
I appreciate the clarity, and if it meets your, if it suits you, we will redraw this and come back with another suggestion or two.
And I'd also like, Mr. Conway, because he was one of the makers of the motion. And I just have a question. We typically, for our school signs, use all caps? Is that a standard?
I love that.
Do we have consistency with that?
I'm not sure there's any standard. If you tell us your preference, Ms. Doherty, we'll be happy to comply.
I'm not a big fan of all caps. It's like screaming. But I would like to be consistent, because that is also important. So just somebody take a look at what our other new schools, how their lettering is done.
Perhaps we can give you a couple of choices next time, again, right? Caps and non-caps and so forth.
Right. And I agree with Ms. Martin. If she would prefer to call it day program, I'm good with that. I just wanted to be clear that it is the Sapasara School. We did all agree on that. But, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. So we have the next three motions, 9-5, responses, I apologize, 9-5, 9-6, 9-7 are filed by Mr. Rossi and Mr. Conway. Mr. Conway had asked that we put his off until he comes back. 9-5, I think it's a pretty good report on the bus websites that are posted, so I think we can accept that one for this evening. 9-7, that's Mr. Rossi's area, so we'll put that off, Mr. Superintendent, for the next meeting. 9-6 and 9-7, makes sense? Is there any comments?
If I could, I think we should hold off on the busing live spreadsheet as well, because I think it was a great motion that is really going to improve communication with our families around busing. So I'd like Ms. Del Rossi to be here for that. That would be my,
So 9-5, 9-6, 9-7, and then
To the next
Rossi,
one.
9-10 as well. Those are all filed by either Mr. Conway and Mr. Rossi, so, I'm sorry, Mr. Superintendent, you get those four for next meeting?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we'll do that. Thank you.
9.8, response to motions by Ms. Doherty, Ms. Martin on January 4th, 2023, regarding authority to remove motions, and Mr. Rossi, action plan on student litigation. Ms. Doherty.
thank you. I just want to say thank you to the City Law Office for providing us this very important answer. I believe the original request was over 2 years ago, so better late than never. And I do want to point out, so this was regarding a situation that some of the people here tonight weren't there then. Ms. Martin and I had a joint motion on the agenda that was removed by the previous superintendent and the previous mayor, and that we asked for clarification from the law office if that was in fact allowed. And there is only one person with the authority to remove a member's motion from the school committee agenda prior to public notification, and that is the school committee member who initially submitted the motion to be removed. And I think especially where a motion was seconded, we had the two of us. So it is a lesson learned going forward, and like I said, a little bit late in coming, but I do appreciate the report. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
9.9, a motion, response to a motion by Mr. Lay, October 16th, 2024, regarding letters to be communicated into Khmer. Mr. Lay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I just want to say that I said before, and I just want to say it again, that it is wonderful that our school have a translation program, services. Even though you may have heard that some parents prefer to receive their literatures in English rather than in Khmer. However, as you have seen, sometimes grandparents take their students to bus stops and picking up their kids, and they don't speak English too. So having something translated in Khmer for them to read, it would be wonderful. So actually, it would be necessary. So I still think that having translation not only necessary, but it is useful for many families. Though though I want to thank Ms. Phillips for writing this report. So even though there is a report, but I don't think it was really answer my questions. I was looking for a mechanism. It is a process that help eliminate to eliminate the problem with the flyer. I have seen it in the past. I have not seen it now, but it was the parents called me and talked to me that the flyer that they got this year was not done correctly. So I have nothing to show you how it was wrong. But I was wondering, is there a mechanism, a process before the flying going out? Do we have somebody who would be able to read over, make sure it's done correctly? That was the only thing that I was looking for.
Superintendent?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Lay. Yes, so there is such a mechanism, there is such a process, and it's there for other languages as well. It happens that the Khmer language is notoriously difficult to get right by native Khmer speakers, not by us. And we have reached out to other agencies and other government departments that do translations to find out, and they sympathize with us and say that yes, that they too have difficulties with Khmer translations. So the process exists. We're willing to improve it. What you have before you is the best of what we've been able to accomplish, and if somebody points out to us this is a better service, we will look for that. But we believe that we are doing all that we can at this stage.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Do we have any staff that within our schools that actually could do it rather than we looking for services elsewhere and spend hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s for it?
We ran into this problem at the city side too, Mr. Lay. You can't have like a staff person or employee do it. You have to go through a certified service.
Okay.
Yeah, same thing happened on, it's difficult with the dialect and the translation issues, but we tried doing a similar on the city side. We were told we cannot.
I understand it is difficult, and it is difficult to have it correctly all the time. So as long as we are working to make it better, and if we could use the resource that we have in our system, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
9/11 KPI report, quarter 2, 24-25 final revision. All good?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The KPI report, as the committee members will know, is a quarterly report. This version is the update for at the end of quarter 2. We're happy to take any questions you might have.
I'm just, if I could ask a question. In this breakdown of the, I think they're outstanding maintenance tickets, like from 25 to 71. Is it everything that's outstanding? Because I didn't see anything about the broken lifts and elevators at the Bartlett School. So I'm just trying to figure out how that fits in with this report. And then, you know, I noticed, and I'm sure you are aware of the areas where we have seen some improvement, and areas like with the math, for instance, we had one of the subgroups dropped by 5% on page 5. I think it was the Black Math Proficiency group. And then in other areas, we are seeing improvements, and I don't know if you feel like we're going to be talking about that at another point, but I just noticed because you had the report, I looked at it. So if you could tell me, did somebody have a motion they want all the ticket items to be included?
Yes, Ms. Doherty, I believe it was Mr. Lay.
So does that mean it's all outstanding? Because why isn't there anything here about the broken elevator and lifts?
Dr. Hall?
I can't hear a word you're saying, sir. You've got to project.
At the last meeting, we produced, I believe it was a 40 to 50-page report on all the outstanding work orders, but it's not in this report.
So what is this report? If you produced it, if you had at the last meeting, all the maintenance, what is this, a subset of that?
It must be, but I did a motion response to Mr. Lay's report at the last meeting, so it was there.
It seems that since this is the Q2 KPI report, I'm looking at the
I
dates,
got
it
it.
looks like these are for Q2.
Just Q2?
Right.
So I'm just wondering what we should be doing with this information, and I,
Well, Ms. Doherty, I wonder that too. And if I may say so, we have at times produced this document up to 85 pages. It happens to be 73 pages this time. And it's questionable, the data in here is valuable, but it's questionable how valuable it is to share it with the committee each quarter. The general idea is that these are not everything, they're key proficiency indicators, and that we would summarize and give you an update every quarter. I would be happy to seek a more summarized version that I think would be more appropriate, but I want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the committee.
so if I could just follow up, and then I would like to defer to the maker of the motion originally asking for this breakdown. I'm particularly interested in those items that have been long outstanding and not fixed, and that are critical, like an elevator, the one elevator in a school that has 19 students in wheelchairs. That's a critical item, right? So I don't know if there's a better way. I certainly don't see, 50 pages of bullet by bullet work items.
So, Ms. Doherty, you asked if there's a better way. Each and every time the committee members make and have a motion passed, we respond to that motion. So one method is to call the superintendent and ask for an update on a specific item, and I will give you that update. Another is to file a public motion and have it passed, and then we respond that way. I agree, I think, with your sentiment that simply producing lists and lists each quarter is not useful.
If I could just a quick question. I thought when this came up, we agreed to buy in. I thought it was just twice a year. I thought we talked about quarterly, and I thought we decided as a committee to do it twice a year, but I could be mistaken.
Well, I think that to Dr. Hall's point, he provided a full list at a previous meeting that was 75 pages.
Right. That was a different motion response. If this was filed, like you said.
But now this is the report that twice a year you're going to include the quarter of the number of outstanding maintenance issues. I don't think that's the way. I mean, that's why I'm asking if we can get together with the city and we could look at, these are some of the key things that we need fixed. How can we help to make sure that happens? But I mean, I don't know if Mr. Lay wants to weigh in on this. What was your thinking behind having every work order or provided to us in this detail?
Ms. Dorothy, thank you for referring this to me. First of all, I think it's very detailed. So a lot of work being put into this report. And you're right. If we have a joint subcommittee with a meeting with the city, we could bring this report and talk some more at that subcommittee meeting. Whether you want to modify the report or you want to clarify for more detailed information. So I think
I'd like to suggest that we take Dr. Hall's full report and we get an executive summary from the administration of what are the long outstanding issues that we consider a priority. That, I don't know if we have schools that don't have working water bubblers or whatever. I just think that this long list is not getting it there.
So I think the report is here in front of us. We could always modify to make it better or to make it the way to our liking the next time. So it is this is the first shot that we get, so we can modify as we go along.
Ms. Martin, say this.
I would say to, I think, accomplish the goal of where the actual information that we'd find most helpful. I think if we could just take a tiered approach, tier 1, top priority items. There may be 10 of those. And that would allow us to pay particular attention to those top 10, and then we can kind of, work our way down. But I do think, to Ms. Doherty's point and Mr. Lay's point for that matter, I think we need to focus our efforts on the most important, most critical things, and that allows the city to also be able to focus their efforts. So I think if we could kind of get the report in a fashion that just gives us that top 10, critical priorities, top tier, and then we can work our way from there.
Thank you. And Ms.
That's
Martin,
helpful.
if I may, so are you suggesting this top tier be included each time we do a KPI quarterly report, be included?
Motion to accept the report to the superintendent, 9.1, 9 through 11, as reports of progress by Mr. Bahu, second by Ms. Doherty. Roll call. All in favor, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry, who did? Okay.
Do we need a motion about what we're going to do going forward? No?
I don't believe you do, Ms. Doherty. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so we need a motion to accept the reports of the superintendent, 9.1 through 9.11, as reports of progress by Mr. Bahu, second by Ms. Doherty. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion passed. 9.12, home education. Need a motion to approve the home education by Mr. Lay, second by Ms. Doherty. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway? Mr. Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
5 yeas, 2 absent.
10, new business, 10.1, approval of vacation rates for cafeteria operations. Need a motion to approve the rates by Mr. Bahu, second by Ms. Doherty. Roll call.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Ms. Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway? Mr. Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
5 yeas, 2 absent.
10.2, vote to accept donation of $1,000 from Lowell Kinetic Sculpture Race. Motion to accept by Ms. Martin, second by Mr. Bahu. Roll call.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway? Mr. Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
5 yeas, 2 absent.
10.3, budget modification request. Motion to approve modification of $1,889,062 by Ms. Doherty, second by Mr. Bahu. Roll call. Oh, yep. Ms. Doherty.
Thank you. Just some of these, we're moving substantial amounts of money. I'm just trying to understand, like, why. I don't know, you want me to pick out certain, like, what happened with Staff Council for Student Services, $106,000? Was that a new position that we didn't have a line item funded for, or why are we changing that much to that line item?
Dr. Pinto.
Thank you for the question. So this is in part of our regular maintenance process, budgeting process. So there may have been an unanticipated expense, it may have been an emergency, it may have been an added service that was needed. So if you'd like me to drill down into specific ones, I can do a little bit of research and come back to you with the reason or the rationale for the change. But this is part of that, of your earlier question about managing the budget and ensuring that we have sufficient funds through the end of the year. So you'll see these transfers happen on a fairly regular basis, regular normal process of us managing the budget, combing through the lines because they change on a daily basis, right? Spending occurs, invoices come in, et cetera. And so that's what
Right.
you're
I mean,
looking
I
at here.
guess I understand that, but in some cases, I mean, with the staffing, we know what we have for council, and when we do the budget, we should have the appropriate amount in that line item for that expense, wouldn't we?
So-
I mean, you're talking about 1.8, almost $1.9 million in adjustments, and there's a couple that have to do with overtime. The overtime equals $500,000 in overtime between clerks, technology, custodians. Is that standard to have that much
So,
overtime?
I think I'm going to may suggest two things, if I may. The overtime, I know, for example, that there have been some absences, and there's some places where we're short-staffed. So if a custodian is out, and let's say there's maybe even no custodian in the school, there's no night custodian, and so on, you have to provide overtime. That's it's not overtime in an extraordinary sense, it's an ordinary overtime expense. Same with overtime for clerical staff. But I would offer, as Dr. Pinto did, Ms. Doherty, if you care to choose some of these items and have us drill down. So I think the one you've pointed to already, Staff Council for Student Services, any others of that nature, we will give you a really thorough outlook.
So, I mean, if I could just follow up, that maybe we could look into some of these high overtime costs, like custodial 200,000, man out 200,000. I mean, are we not staffing the way we need to be staffing? Because I think that overtime is expensive, isn't it? We don't pay the same rate. You get a higher rate when you're overtime. I don't know that it's really the best way to move forward, but.
So I've chosen three to drill down on at your request, Ms. Doherty. Staff Council for Student Services, overtime custodial, overtime man out. Any others, we'll be happy to give you full details on.
I did want to offer some additional points of information. So CBAs were ratified, so collective bargaining agreements were ratified. In addition, OT was increased for custodial staff due to a new building. So these are some things that, OT is one of those unanticipated, we make our best guess on what that might be over the course of the year, and then we do a course correction as we go along. But OT certainly did catch our attention.
Right.
It's one of those things that exerts pressure on the budget, and so we have started those conversations.
Right. So I think that certainly be worth including in the overtime report, that agreements were made that increased the wages, the hourly amount, and that would impact the budget. But I think that would be great. I appreciate that extra information. Thank you.
Ms. Martin.
If I could, I just have a question on the community schools coordinators. Because, I mean, that was something that we budgeted for. Why would we need to be adding this onto it?
Dr. Pinto?
So, Ms. Martin, that may have just been a transfer between lines to cover that expense. So we may have anticipated it. Depends on who was hired in that role, what their salaries, what the final salaries were come in at. And so that transfer occurs to just address that need. So we planned for it and had held the money in another line is what's happened.
We'll include.
Do you know where we would have held it? I mean, again, these were like, because, I mean, I can understand there's some ebb and flow with overtime and some of those things that are, that you're never really going to nail down. But again, when you're talking about specific salaries that were budgeted during the budget process, they should be existing on their own line item. So they wouldn't, unless something changed, there shouldn't be a need to change it, I wouldn't think.
Right. So in the budget book in the budget book for the last fiscal year, we did hold a dollar amount that was set aside for negotiations and salaries. And so I'm imagining this is a transfer of those dollars, but I can certainly get you a final answer, furnish you with more information on that one.
We'll include it, Ms. Martin, in a further report with all the details that you're looking for.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, so I'd sort of like yes, drilling down seems like a great idea. To talk about the library, to talk about the community schools coordinators, that was a sort of a sticking subject when we were developing the budget on how many we were going to keep and how many we weren't going to keep. And we sort of earmarked an X number for that, somewhere around $1.1 million or $1.2 million, if I remember correctly. So if that's the case, and we budgeted that $1.1 or $1.2 million, it just seems pretty like a very large amount of money if we're transferring $489,000 into that account. So that's sort of the first thing that I'd like to discuss. But if you'd like to respond to it, that's perfectly fine. Sure. Please do.
Mr. Bajo, thank you for the question. So we do reallocate funds from different accounts. So these ones may all have been anticipated and budgeted for in a teacher line. So Teacher lines they're aligned with the UTL, and so historically we charge all teachers the same account. This may be what's occurred in this instance. But I do want to drill down and get you a clear answer.
Please do, because a few of these items, like one says tech instructor support specialist. I mean, I guess that's instruction support specialist of $366,000. Another one says director of alternative ed. Is that a new position? So, I mean, is that, it seems like it's for one person.
It's not a new position. It's not a new position, Mr. Bahu. I'm hearing your question. I'm glad that the questions are being put out. I think we owe the committee and the public accountability, and so I'm looking forward to the opportunity to drill down and give you exact details on the types of questions you're asking. Again, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items, and I think they happen to be the ones at the largest dollar amounts. We may add more, but we'll give you a thorough report so you can understand.
Yeah, I think that would be best.
Thank you.
So it's been made and seconded. You want to do a roll call? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Yes. Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
There's a motion to approve the budget modification. That's why I asked. You know. You can't hear me? All right. So then vote no then.
I would have to say I was hoping to get the explanation before we move on the transfer. If that's, is that going to be a problem?
So we're in the middle of a roll call. So we've had 3 yeses and 1 no.
No.
10.4, need a motion to forward the unpaid obligations for fiscal years 2022, 2023, and 2024 to the City Council for payment using School Department fiscal year 2025 funds. A motion to approve by. So we're going to get to a roll call, but if you don't, we'll be able to talk about it at all. Yes. By Mrs. Martin, thank you. Is there a second? Ms. Doherty. Ms. Martin, go ahead.
Annie, I'm not sure this passes with only 3 yeas.
Dr. Pinto.
Because it's not.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Ms. Martin. So as this is part of the budget cleanup process, and so in combing through the budget, combing through accounts payable, in contact with vendors and each of our 28 locations, these are the items that we've uncovered as outstanding prior year encumbrances. So I'm very pleased to report this looks like a very significant process in terms of the budget cleanup. I think it's very encouraging that we've managed to flush all of these out, and we'll be happy to resolve them with our vendors and continue to work on the narrative that Lowell Public Schools don't pay their bills. So we are going to pay these bills and these vendors for services that have been rendered. So in this report, you'll see what's been uncovered. I've wanted to furnish you with the year in which the item originated. So you've got the vendor, you've got the reason, and you've got the dollar amount has been provided for you there. And so I'm also pleased to report that as part of this process, so as part of cleaning it up and uncovering these items and conversations with these vendors and our own personnel, we're working to eliminate these kinds of items, these outstanding prior year encumbrances going forward. So I think some of the key things that have been enacted have been, we've created an accounts payable drop box. So now what's happening for each of our 28 sites and all of the people that are making purchases on a daily basis, they now place their invoices into a drop box that is accessible by both the site and the central office, so that they can see what's been ordered, what purchase orders there are, what invoices have been looked at, and which ones have been paid. Another key point is the training that we've offered. So we have already offered some training to each of our locations, all of our administrative assistants, executives, people that are making purchases. And so we had that at the district office, and we're able to furnish them with information, training. We had several people that are new and so on. It also served as a refresher to reacquaint them with the process for making purchases, the correct way to go about it. So opening a requisition, having the requisition turned into a purchase order, ensuring that there's an adequate dollar amount in the line, and then making sure that it's paid. In addition, we've got monthly reporting. So we now at central office are sending out monthly reports to each site. So we are making sure that they receive a monthly report. They're able to look at how many open purchase orders they have, and then we're working to close those purchase orders as goods and services are received. I think another encouraging piece of this report is the dollar amount here. So while it may seem to be large at $352,000, when considered in the context of the overall budget, $260 million, I think it's that we are. I think we're moving in the right direction.
If I could add, Ms. Martin, you can be understandable that you would be jaded and that this committee would be jaded because you've dealt with this year on year. I'm here to tell you that what Dr. Pinto is presenting to you is the work, is the result of some really thorough investigative work on his part on behalf of his staff. Really fine work to ferret out what services have been received and rendered that have not been paid for, and you know, to some extent, I could say we're embarrassed, but it is nonetheless fine work, and the proof is in the pudding. The proof will be in future years if we come back with a similar story. But what Dr. Pinto was describing, in addition to the document and the figures, is the types of processes that he's put into place that were not in place previously, and that should help us to avoid many bad bills in future.
Thank you. I'm going to say that, I mean, you've been here 10 minutes, really. You know what I mean? So I understand that you've kind of come into a very challenging situation. To the superintendent's point, jaded beyond belief. I mean, it's been 10 years. I mean, every year we are told we've dealt with the problem and it'll never happen again. The number of times I have heard that, if I had $10 for each, I'd probably come close to this 352. So, I mean, it's just obscene to me that we can possibly be in this position and we're looking at bills from 2022.
That's right.
And I can't tell, because I didn't do a spreadsheet to do this, but does this, I mean, we've got this University of Massachusetts from 2022 that in and of itself is $250,000. I'm assuming that's not part of this 350.
That's correct.
Okay, so now we're over $500,000.
That's correct.
That's profoundly upsetting. You know, again, I appreciate that these steps you're taking. You know, as I'm looking through these, are the bulk of these from school-based purchases? They don't seem to be to me. I mean, some are.
Yeah, they are a mix of things. So I've tried to detail the reason for them for each one. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that you raised the University of Massachusetts Lowell. That's a fine example of what we've been facing. So we opened up purchase orders for the work to be done, and they never invoiced us. So the end of the year came, we closed the purchase orders as we would do, right? So some of them are originating from, this happens to be originating from May 22. So we closed those purchase orders in a timely manner, and they arrived this year and asked us to pay up for items that were serviced in 2022. So that was the initial pushback from our department was, well, so show us the evidence that the work was completed, and then we require the vendor to provide us with a certification that this is it. So this one is currently under investigation because we have not been able to verify that the work has been done. They haven't been able to show us the invoices or the work yet. So that's why these ones are under negotiation. So that happens to be the same for Fall at Aspen as well.
But are we planning to move forward with that Fall at Aspen one?
I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we planning to move forward with that Fall at Aspen, or are we just giving up on it and paying for services rendered so far and just letting it go?
So we're not giving up on anything. We're going to investigate it until we're absolutely certain that they rendered the services and can provide evidence that the services were rendered before we pay $1.
Yeah, but I mean, just from the description here, it seems like this what we purchased was halfway done, are we just planning to pay them for half the work and just accept that we're not moving forward with a complete product and going in another direction?
So we've begun discussions, and actually there was an exchange today on email with regard to the outstanding amount. They still haven't furnished what's been asked. And so the product is, that project is still being completed. And so, of course, I also expressed a little shock and dismay that anything would go on for 4 years and the project is incomplete. But, you know, they've forwarded a number of reasons for that. They've been a valued and trusted partner in the past. They have provided continuity of service, and so should be lauded for that. But we do want to iron out what the discrepancies might be.
If I may, Ms. Martin, we in other respects, we have a very good relationship with Follett Aspen. They're our student management system, right, our SMS, and to move that would be, turning the Titanic. We need to work with them. This is a service that they were signed up to provide. It's not clear that they certainly never billed us for that service. So I'll make a couple of points. One is that in general, though as dismaying as it is, and it is dismaying, what you're seeing now is, I believe, very fine work to ferret out the details, transparency. We'd love not to be having this discussion with you tonight, but we're not going to hide from you the bad news. This is what we're finding. If I may, because I also, Ms. Martin, have been inclined to promise that we're not going to face this again, and we are not. To the extent that we won't have this. I cannot, however, promise you that we will never have delayed or bad bills again, because in some of these cases, including the one for $250,000, we weren't billed for that service, and it's not our fault. Now, we are taking proactive steps to seek invoices from people who didn't bill us. We're going to go after them and ask them to bill us. That's one method. But, we can only be responsible for so much. And we think we can cut this down and clean it up vastly. But it doesn't mean you can always, make a vendor send you the bill on time. If they send it to you on July 2nd, you've missed the fiscal year and you got a bad bill on your hands, right? So we do believe that we're doing good work. I certainly have seen evidence of it in Dr. Pinto's work and that of his staff. We're deep into cleaning up and putting in place new processes.
I appreciate that. And I guess we'll see moving forward kind of how this works itself out. I do think that, for some of these really large ones, even the university, the research practice project happened.
Yes.
There was staff that was involved in it. There was staff who were responsible for it. And I don't know who they are, but that kind of tracking of of chasing down a bill. We signed an MOU, I'm sure, with the university when we did it. We signed a contract. Again, it's the whole concept of this sneaking up on us that is just maddening. So I appreciate that we're putting in place some things to ensure that this never happens again. I was going to say, you'll forgive me if I don't get overly excited about it. Thank you.
Ms. Doherty.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. I'm wondering if when we do these agreements, whether it's an MOU or whatever, that we say right up front that it is on you to provide an invoice. And if you don't provide a bill within a certain time frame, you risk not getting paid. We shouldn't have to be chasing people for invoices from 2 or 3 years ago. And then just a couple of questions. So we've got $352,000 that's definitely been identified. Then there are other ones that you're actively investigating, which could be another $400,000. So now we're talking about $750,000 in bad bills that my understanding is that goes before the city council.
That's correct.
Right. We have to get there, which we all get trashed about that, right? And it's been, as Ms. Martin mentioned, happening year after year after year and just getting worse. But I don't remember it happening before 10 years ago. It just seems like in the last 7 or 8 years, maybe. I don't know. But My question is, who has these funds? Is it goes before the city council, are they then supposed to come up with $750,000 in our bad bills? Or we have this funding somewhere? I mean, where is this money going to come from to pay these old invoices?
Thank
That
you.
are almost $1 million? Well, that's really jumping it. Let's stick with 750.
Thank you for the question, Ms. Doherty. Just a note of clarification. The ones that are under investigation total 300,000, just a shade over 300,000. So this will come from FY25 school district funds. So we will pay for the services that were rendered. Do we have that? We do.
It may delay purchases that we'd otherwise make towards the end of the year, but we have estimated that we can manage this and manage it well.
If I could just follow, but that is not this bad bills money is not part of the transfer that you just asked for.
That's correct.
It's not.
That's right.
That's correct.
But it will be. We'll be doing another transfer. Is what we're saying.
Mr. Bahu?
So, bad bill. So basically, somebody submits a purchase order, and then we are to pay them. If they bill us before June 30th, then we pay them for their bills, comes out of our school budget. If they bill us July 2nd, and the work was done on May 30th, do we not take it out of the previous year's school budget? Or do we say on July 2nd that, well, that's next year's budget, so that's now considered a bad bill?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bahu, thank you for the question. So that there is a grace period that's allowed. So what's happening at the end of this fiscal year, there'll be a little bit of a freeze while we close out FY25, while the city closes out FY25 and rolls over to FY26. But there is a grace period in which we might accrue items that we think need to be paid over the month of July or forward, perhaps longer than that. This is going to be my first year through the process. I know that in previous instances, the budget's been held open through August or September until it's finalized and audited at the city level. So there is a series of months in which we can still pay and draw from the prior year's budget.
Okay. So we had taken a purchase order, and then, so some people are saying they haven't been paid from 2022, 2023. There's hundreds of thousands of dollars here. They submit a purchase order to us. Now, do we know that all of this work has been completed? Did we call the vendor and say, was this work completed?
Thank you. So that's part of the process, the verification process. So we do verify that the service has been provided, services or goods have been provided, and then we do require the vendor to sign a certification that that's it. This is what you owe, and that's the end, so that there's no further billing or interest or anything else accruing on whatever that purchase was.
We also verify it on our end that the service was received, that the materials were received, and so forth.
Okay. And one last question. One item listed on 2024 was Vermont Permanency Initiative. Out-of-district student tuition, 23-24. Contract was initiated but not approved by the city solicitor. Why is the city solicitor having to approve our contracts?
That's right, Mr. Bahu. So the city solicitor, it does go through a purchasing process when we have contracts, and it's a rather lengthy, complicated process, but it does go to the city solicitor multiple times to verify that terms and conditions are in line with what the city expects when we enter into contracts. So the law department does review it multiple times. I happen to know this Vermont Permanency Initiative. They refused to sign the contract because they didn't agree with the language that was put in place by the city solicitor in order to protect the district and the city.
So that's what caused it as a delay.
That was the delay, but the services were rendered. In this case, they had to be rendered. They were related to special education.
Okay. Thank you. And then we still have that other $400,000 that's sort of just sitting out there in the dark that we really don't know much about. You're going to have a conversation with UMass Lowell as well as Fall at Aspen, and this could sort of end up on the table again.
Correct.
Yes, and I'm sorry, you were correct, Mr. Doherty. It is 400,000, yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you for all your hard work, and we're, hoping that this doesn't happen.
So,
So I just have a couple of questions, if I can do it from here. So I just take a couple of examples just to find out, the reasons why. So just take the Barnes & Noble from FY '22, invoice misplaced. Can you be more specific? Like, was it under a desk somewhere, or was it in someone's drawer?
Sometimes that's exactly what happens. Desk, drawer, email inbox, so for a while, and the school committee is well aware that there's one person that pays AP on accounts payable on behalf of the school district. So I'm pleased to report that in addition to so to answer your question, Mr. Mayor, I can't say specifically where this invoice was placed or where it was found, but I can tell you that in order to mitigate that and ensure that it doesn't happen again, we are now sending out those monthly broadcasts. We are holding budget meetings at the site with the administrator. So we're starting, our next round is coming up, in which we'll explore open purchase orders and see if we can get an answer on whether or not the service has been received before we close them out. So I do want to say that it would be unrealistic for me to promise that there won't be any bad bills. You see the variety of reasons, and you see the variety of parties that are involved. What I can offer you is that it will certainly be reduced from the amount that you see here. So we will show continuous improvement year over year.
So you reached out to Barnes & Noble and told them that we owe them $500? Was the finance team reached out to Barnes & Noble and said, we have a bill here for $497?
So in this instance, I can't say whether we reached out to them or they reached out to us, but there was communication between both the vendor and our team to ascertain whether or not the items had been received. In this case, they were procured appropriately, and so we were able to determine that we did owe them the $497.56.
Okay, and just another one, for example. So the Rydell from '23, equipment procured without a purchase order.
Right. So this is an example of what the training is designed to mitigate, right? So we held one training session already. We will have further training and refresher sessions. So we have discovered that sometimes people place an order. Somebody who may not be authorized goes ahead and places an order and then seeks reimbursement for it. So people are aware now, and we'll continue to promote that, that they have to have a requisition in place. And so they got the requisition in place. We've determined that the funds are in their budget, or that's in line with whatever their spending plan happens to be. The requisition is then converted to a purchase order. They then receive the goods or services, and then the invoice is issued and we pay.
So, and maybe this is a more general question. So so someone from, it's Rydell, so I'm guessing maybe as a coach or something like that, just calls Rydell and says, I need 100 uniforms or mouth guards or helmets, and they just send them without any correspondence officially between the school department and that person?
So, Mr. Mayor, I can't say with certainty that that's what happened in this case right at this moment. I certainly can if I go back and do a little bit of research on it, but it is conceivable that that's something that's happened. We may have a history with Rydell. We may have their personnel may be known to us. It may be a sales rep that's dealt with us for years, year over year, and so there may be that kind of agreement. Rydell trusts that we are going to pay for what we order, but the person may not have gone through the correct process in making the purchase.
So most of these, before we get to the actively investigating additional unpaid prior year expenses, Superintendent, you're saying that this was investigation work done by the finance team to correct things that haven't been made right?
That's correct. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Right.
If it helps, one additional measure that we can look into, given that we're saying that you can't prevent all of this every time, I think it might be worth establishing what's a reasonable threshold. Like, what happens in the very best of businesses and the very best of organizations? What level of delayed or bad bills do they deal with, right? So we have some sort of a sense that we are reducing hours to what would be the best professional standard out there. But it's just a point that there's some level you can't prevent. We definitely can prevent the likes of this, and will.
So, and I guess the last question I have is, so going forward with FY '25 or '26, we don't expect this to come back, we may have a rogue '23 or '24 in the future, but you're confident with '25 and '26 and going forward that this won't happen again?
Yes, to this extent, Mr. Mayor, absolutely. Beg your pardon?
I mean, look, there's a reason why.
What?
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. That's right.
Well, if someone gives us an invoice past June 30th, that's not our beef, right? I mean, so.
Right.
Obviously, there's a reason why, there's a change made in that position, so. Okay,
We're aspiring to 0, Mr. Mayor.
it's a good goal.
Basically, we're just keeping an eye on this, truthfully, for bad bills. And then secondly, we're moving forward, we're taking in purchase orders, we're paying our vendors, we're making sure our line items are all paid for and accounted for, so we're not having this come.
And we're reaching out to vendors to tell them that you've not yet billed us. Please send it in promptly. That kind of thing is occurring, yes.
Because to be out $353,000 of our school budget is an awful lot of money, with truthfully another $450,000 pending.
So it's just, I imagine that you and the CFO will be at a council meeting pretty soon?
Yes.
I'll be there on the appointed date.
Good luck. All right, so we need a motion by,
I have it.
roll
Yeah.
call.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yep.
Mr. Conway? Mr. Rossi? Ms. Doherty? 5 yeas, 2 absent.
10.5, first reading of preschool assignment policy. Need a motion to waive the first reading of the preschool assignment policy and send it to the next scheduled school committee meeting for approval by Mr. Lay, seconded by Mr. Bahu. Roll call.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu? Mr. Conway? Mr. Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
5 yeas, 2 absent.
10.6, second reading of Chapter 74 policy. Motion to approve the Chapter 74 CTE admission policy by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Lay. Roll call.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Yes. Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway? Mr. Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
5 yeas, 2 absent.
We have 11 overnight out-of-state requests. We have a motion to bundle them by Ms. Doherty, second by Ms. Martin. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 11.1, overnight request, National School Safety Conference, Orlando, Florida. 11.2, out-of-state request, Professional Development Summit. 11.3, overnight Lowell High School to Providence, Rhode Island. 11.4, overnight request, Lowell High to Millwood, Mass. 11.5, overnight request, Lowell High School to MSSA Conference. And 11.6, overnight request, Lowell High School to Hyannis, Mass. Motion to approve by Ms. Doherty, second by Mr. Lay. Roll call.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway? Mr. Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
5 yeas, 2 absent.
12, professional personnel. 12.1, the members of the United Teachers of Lowell hereby donate 54 sick leave days to Courtney Toombs, STEM Academy teacher, and 6 sick leave days to Nancy Daigle, paraprofessional, Maury School. Motion to approve by Mr. Bahu, seconded by Ms. Doherty. Roll call.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway? Mr. Rossi? Ms. Doherty? 5 yeas, 2 absent.
Mr. Superintendent, you got an announcement?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do. It's the public service announcement for our community and maybe the school committee members as well. Tomorrow will be a no school day due to the pending weather. We believe the weather may be very tricky and potentially dangerous. There will be no school in Lowell Public Schools tomorrow.
Yay.
Motion to adjourn by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Ms. Martin. Have a good evening.
Did the call go out to families? Oh, you got it. Great.
No school, kid. You did good. I got the call while I was driving Irene home. She's okay. Between her